It is another episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media. Yes, y'all. It is the New York Liberty versus the Las Vegas Aces, the quote-unquote super teams, just like Kathy Engelbert designed it in the Petri dish.
Exactly. Not even a script. Concocted this joint. This is wild.
That's right. This is a synthetically made, artificially inseminated WNBA finals, and we are going to talk about it on this episode of Gotta Get Up.
Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala.
We've never really done this, at least not explicitly, and I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts because y'all know, as do our listeners and viewers, that I personally have been wanting to see more from Courtney Vandersloot. You mentioned the turnovers. They got a little bit out of control, and Courtney Vandersloot did not seem to necessarily be the best hand for the New York Liberty at stretches. But going to the Vegas Aces, Kelsey, Plum, you talked about, Misha, the X's and O's, Xing and O'ing. I don't know if Plum's been plum dogging most recently. So I'm not saying, I think it's harsh to say, although it may be true, that they were underperforming, so to speak. But I think how I'll phrase it, Misha, is that I do think that those two individuals can give more. And if they give more, their team is a more well-oiled, refined version of themselves, and makes them hard to beat. What are your thoughts on Vandersloot and Kelsey Plum and the impact that they can have and maybe should have in this finals?
So the one thing that I was so excited about with Courtney Vandersloot going into this season is we were obviously looking at the firepower on the Liberty's roster, but what excited me about acquiring her is she's the kind of point guard when she is at her best, she's finding the hot hand. She's, you know what I mean? She's being aggressive. She's also a threat, and she's keeping defenses on their toes. And I think because when we see that in flashes, there are times where the New York Liberty just take off and run with it because there's no way you can stop them at that point, right? Because you know Sloot is going to put the ball where it needs to be. You know Sabrina, when she's playing off the ball, frankly, obviously that's when she's at her best, scoring the basketball, putting the ball in the hole. So Sloot at her best, it's almost a guaranteed win. Like Sloot at her best, putting up 12 points, almost triple-double watch type numbers. But you know, we talked about it in previous series, in the Mystic series and the Connecticut Sun series. When she's not a threat, it also diminishes her ability to be a good point guard. You know what I mean? It stops defenses from worrying about her. She has less eyes on her when she's moving through the paint, when she's, you know, taking that dribble down the baseline. Nobody's worried about her. And that's when the New York Liberty are in trouble. So she's, you know, one of those, when she has a great night, she's one of your best assets. And when she's not having a great night, she's, you know, the softest link in the chain, so to speak. And then KP, yeah, sometimes she's plum dog and sometimes she's not. It has not been her most consistent back half of the regular season, I would say, and playoffs. However, we can't forget who we talk about. You know what I mean? We're talking about somebody who can pour it in. I put her in the same category kind of with Rike and Ryan Howard and those kind of scorers who really can just torch you and set you on fire, and you just left thinking, wow, what did we just experience? You know what I mean? What did we just witness? And because this is the finals, because of the competitor that she is plum dog. She got that dog in her. And when it comes down to it, we saw that at Washington.
I see them gym shots.
Yeah. And so when it comes down to the biggest moments, she's one of those players that when she steps up, you know, she can lead the Aces in scoring one of these games. Like, that's the kind of impact she can have. But on the other side of it, I think when she isn't having her best game, and conversely to the Liberty, I don't think it hurts the Aces in the same way that it hurts the Liberty. You know what I mean? I think that she can be a spark plug in other ways. Now, if she's turning the ball over, that's a different situation. You know what I mean? If she's not hitting shots, that's one thing. You have, you know, Chelsea, you have Alicia Clark who can hit. You have all these other players who can hit. But when she's not hitting, there are other things that she can do. But it's just a matter of what can she give them on the defensive end when she's not hitting on offense. And that to me is the biggest question mark with her. And so, you got to wonder which version of each of those players you're going to get every night. But the one thing I will say, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what kind of mentality they come in with, because KP, she's part of that Jack crew Monica McNutt talked about, right? She's part of that core. And when they come with that championship mentality, because facts are Aces got one, you know what I mean? They know what it takes to get through a series like this. So if it gets to a situation where she's not hitting and she has to fall back on that, I'm confident in that with her.
And I love that you mentioned championships. Of course, we know the Aces are looking to go back-to-back. It will be the first time anyone in this league has done that since the LA Sparks. The Lisa Leslie Sparks, not the Candace Parker Sparks, just to be clear. But there are two players that when it comes to championships, actual championships, but then also championship DNA. And I'm going to say two names. I'm picking one from each side, and y'all can argue with yourself in the comments, because I'm going with Chelsea Gray, the point guard, and Breanna Stewart. I feel like, Brian, we've already talked about why the championship DNA is Stewie. Like, you look it up in the dictionary, it's a picture of Stewie right there. But Chelsea Gray, that's a player who, quite honestly, I'm a little bit scared. I'm a little bit scared of what she might do. Like, scared in a way where, like, because I'm not necessarily the most neutral party, I'm scared. But as a basketball fan, sucky now, I'm ready. I'm here for it. What are your thoughts, Brian, on the point guard and Stewie, New York City?
One thing I love about playoff basketball is that every team needs someone to just say, "Oh, hey, I need you to get a basket for me. Go do stuff." And Chelsea can do that. So even if there's like really intense defense on one of your other options, you can just give it to Gray in the mid-range, be like, "Oh, hey, go do this," and she'll do it. Like I'm still blown away by her run last year, where she just sort of like took it to Seattle and Connecticut every single time. I think she shot something like bananas, like 60% from the field on really tough shots. Really tough shots against really tough.
That's when you know it's a wrap. I'm like,
when she put that backpack on, she be, it's over. It's a wrap. It's
over. Like, scared. I am genuinely scared, but also I'm here for it. I'm sorry, Brian. I just had to get the show going.
Yeah, so like having a player like that who can really just go get it when you need to and really sort of keep at it repeatedly every time down, I think it really matters a lot, especially if a game, because like player basketball tends to get like gnarly late. So it's like no one's making shots for like 4 minutes in a row. And then you just need somebody to sort of get a scratch for you. You just give it to Gray, be like, get it, she's got it. So I think that part is super valuable. And I think that is going to, like, I just sort of like before we go on to Stewie, back to Laney, like she played all 40 last game and she kept at it on both sides of the ball all the way through. So New York is going to need something similar to that again, which I think she can do. So I'm really excited to see that sort of back and forth chess match between those two players. So that's one sort of like little matchup I have circled. And as for Stewie, I remember like after game one, there was all the, MVP doing this? Oh, she only got 4 points? A word? All right. And then like during that game, you kind of start to figure it out a little bit. And then in Connecticut, she looked like her regular MVP self. And I think, especially on the other side for New York, early in the year, Sandy would just hit the Stewie do stuff button, and it worked every time. And now that there's the flow of everybody fully integrated in, Stewie can still get those shots, and then she can really sort of like get you on the move, do all these kind of different things. And I think for New York, when they need a basket, they can go to her. Part of the reason why the game didn't get out of reach early on was that she went on that 7-0 run by herself, and just giving it to her in the elbow, be like, hey, go get it. she's got it. And then getting out in transition, making those stops on defense to sort of really keep the defense at bay. I think her ability to really sort of like get going and do what she can against any type of defense is going to be so valuable. And I think also to that point, similar to how Becky will sort of like ride her best players, like Asia will play like 38, 39, 40 minutes. The same thing for Stewie with Sandy. So she's going to have a lot of runaway and opportunity to really sort of like adjust to the defense on the fly, start sort of like diagnosing things in real time to get to where she needs to go. And I think the deeper the series goes, the more she's able to see different assignments, different sort of like tactics that Becky is using against her and be able to adapt, adjust, and get to where she needs to when it comes to that.
I love it. I love it. And we're going to get to those last two questions now. We didn't really talk too much about A'ja Wilson. We did talk about Defensive Player of the Year. I alluded to Sabrina Ionescu. Those two players, I think, are very intriguing to me, more so A'ja Wilson. And it's because me personally, I'm giving that effectively like, clutch time card. I'm giving it to Chelsea Gray. That's not to say that A'ja Wilson can't do that, which again, not necessarily a neutral party. So I'm a little bit scared. But also as a basketball fan, I'm like, yes, give me more. But I'm still giving the edge personally to Chelsea Gray. But of course, we have to be on the lookout for A'ja Wilson. Sabrina Ionescu, I've said it for a few podcasts now. Not her team. This is not her team. The New York Liberty is not her team. It's A'ja Wilson's team. We talked about that earlier in the pod. Bill Laimbeer gave her the keys, the title, the car note, all the things in perpetuity, right? So that's not Sabrina yet. And the narrative that's going to follow Sabrina Ionescu is that she's never competed for a championship. A'ja Wilson, done that. We already talked about Stewie. Obviously, clean sweep in college, has done that in the WNBA. Aforementioned Chelsea Gray has done that. So what will this mean, whether you want to talk about Mamba mentality, whether it's just her overall IQ, her will to win, chip on her shoulder that Oregon didn't get a chance at a title? I don't know. I don't know what she's cooking up in that brain of hers, but will that come to fruition? What storylines, quite frankly, are we going to see from Sabrina Ionescu? I'm curious. I, for one, am curious. But the storyline that may or may not be a storyline is, are we going to see Candace Parker? Because if CP3 comes in the mix, this is a very different series, in my opinion, Misha.
Yeah, my heart just started fluttering a little bit at the prospect of seeing CP3 back out there in another finals. She was just chilling, she said, all right, I'm on the back end of my career. Y'all go handle the business in the regular season, the rest of the playoffs, and I'll come. I hit you in game 2 of the finals. I hit you in game 2. No. Yeah, I really hope that we at least see her available. But the fact of the matter for me, as a basketball nut, of course I want to see her play in the finals. Of course I do. Why would I not want that? But at the same time, Candace Parker is an icon. Candace Parker is a former MVP. She's the only person to ever win the MVP and the Rookie of the Year trophy in the same season. Candace Parker she's that girl. She's that girl. Point blank, period. And for that reason, I'm thinking about legacy. I'm thinking about what she deserves. And I'm thinking about the level of basketball that we know she can play. And unless she's available and going 100%, I don't see her playing in this series. And I don't want her to play in this series, frankly, because I do not want to see her risk any kind of injury that could prolong, you know what I mean? I don't know how many years left she has in the league. And I'm going to leave that to her. She's the GOAT. I'm going to let her do what she do. But I don't want to see any part of what she's built to this point smeared, because we know how folks get, you know what I mean? We talk about it in every podcast. Somebody's the hot topic of, the media sphere, the Twitterverse, whatever the case may be. And I do not want to see that for her. I do not want to see, she comes back and she's available and she's only like 85, 90%. She goes out there and she turns the ball over or whatever happens. And everybody, Candace Parker, is this your legend? I don't even want it. I want no parts of it. But mostly I don't want to see her get hurt, and I don't want to see her put that part of herself in jeopardy, because the Aces have a shot as is. Obviously, they've made it to the finals. They made it this far. But then on the other hand, of course, I want to see her on the court. Like, I want to see that as soon as possible. But do I think it's the best move for the Aces? It depends on the situation. I'm not in the training room with them. But I think, they have a strong chance as is. So why risk it?
Hey, WNBA fans, Erica L. Ayala here, and I am pleased to announce something very special. Given that a few members of the Gotta Get Up podcast are planning to cover the WNBA finals, we thought this would be a great time to roll out Gotta Get Up Overtime. Now, this is going to be a special Patreon-only podcast. By joining up on our Patreon page as part of Black Rosie Media, you will get a direct link to our audio podcast. This will be in addition to our free podcast. It will include things like exclusive interviews with players, especially when we're at games. It's going to include some of our behind the scenes stuff when we're covering the WNBA finals, when we're at games. It will have some of our player interviews that maybe just don't make the podcast or that we're not using in articles elsewhere. So this is a great time to sign up for Gotta Get Up Overtime. And also, if you don't want to subscribe to our Patreon, which we highly recommend, we also going to have a newsletter coming in the off season, then we would love if you would consider making a little tip to Gotta Get Up. If you've been finding our content useful, we're expected to have two of our regular participants, Brian and Erica, that would be me, traveling for the WNBA finals. And right now this is a labor of love, and we're looking to get ways to monetize the show and to expand our WNBA coverage. So if you're available, we have, again, the Patreon option, Gotta Get Up Overtime, and it's going to be an overdrive for the WNBA finals. But you can also make a little tip, air quote tip. Just donate anything that you can using Venmo or PayPal, and we would greatly appreciate it. But we are so excited to have some of our crew. Between myself, Misha, and Brian, we do have another episode. It's going to be in 2 parts coming to you soon. And then I will be in Vegas for game 1, and we'll keep up with you on Gotta Get Up Overtime, and of course on Black Rosie social media for everything else. But thank you so much for listening or watching on YouTube, and we hope that for those who are able, that you support us beyond what you're doing right now. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you said a lot right there. Brian, what are your thoughts? CP3, yay or nay?
Yeah, I'd be stunned if she did play. I think just to everything Misha said, also the fact that it's been 3 months she's been on the court, and you haven't, coming off surgery, you haven't had really a chance to even get like some training game, like some like warm-up games in the regular season, just sort of getting that opportunity to come in. And then on the other side, you're going up against a big who's at her peak form right now, and that's going to be a gigantic ask for any player, especially one who's coming off 3 months of trying to shake off 3 months of rust with absolutely no room for error. It's almost like you're at the circus and you're walking a trampoline, but there ain't no net underneath you. So it's like you better you got to land this exactly right, or it's going to be chaos underneath you. So I think I feel like if this series were in like November, and you have an extra month to sort of like get time to heal up a little bit more, but with such little time to get back into it, I'd be stunned if she did play. And then even then, it's like, how many minutes can you entrust her to do? Because like even with a player like that, you're gonna have to adjust your rotations on the fly. And post the injury in July, Becky has really settled into what she's doing. So you're gonna have to sort of upend that in real time with no room for error. Even the 2 days in between games may not be enough to really sort of figure out exactly what you want to do with like your rotations, how well she can play, all those kind of things. So I don't think we see her in this series, unfortunately. I'd love to see her because I love watching the big who can do everything in the way that she does and the way that she can sort of like really figure out defenses. I think it's really awesome. And I think having an icon like her, even in this next stage of the WNBA's growth in a series where it's going to be so many people locked in, I think that it sucks that we probably won't see her on the court. So I hope that at the very least there's a sort of like love and appreciation shown for her during the broadcast. So that way, if there are new fans who are coming in to watch, they get to know, they get to sort of see a player who helped build the league to where it is right now and where it possibly can go in the future.
You know what it gives? It gives Cheryl Swoops that first year when she was pregnant and she came back at the very, very tail end. They were like, but we don't want to hurt you. We don't want to, like, it gives very much that. Like, let it be. If she can get 2 minutes when y'all blowing them out, maybe one, like, if that even happens, that's a long shot in itself, you know. But yeah, that's real, Brian, because you don't want casual fans or folks who are just getting introduced to the league. That's a whole other layer I didn't even consider. That's so real.
Yeah, I guess ultimately it comes down to, quite honestly, these are all hypotheticals. We don't have an update from Candace Parker or from the Aces about Candace Parker. But I guess for me, it really comes down to, and Misha, I think you were the first one to mention this. These are Becky Hammond's already a Hall of Famer. And if Sandy Brondello is not a Hall of Famer, we riot. That's how I feel. So these are very intelligent basketball minds, coaches, coaching staff, players, soup to nuts all the way through. The only way I see it being beneficial is if Becky Hammond and company see value added in Ace being able to give 100% of whatever it is that she has without it affecting negatively everything that the Aces have had to rebuild without her on the court. That's a big question. Questions that only the Aces and Ace can answer. So, but now we're going to get to game one predictions. You know how we do. You can give us a scoreline. You can give us a player that you think has to go off, or XYZ team will win if, and then give us the scenario. Brian, let's start with you. And who do you want to focus on, the Aces or the Liberty?
I'll lead off with the Liberty. I'll say the Liberty win game one if they out-rebound the Aces by at least 5. Ooh. The big thing that really sort of like shone through in the victories they had against the Aces was that they dominated them on the glass, including that one game where it was 48-24 in favor of New York on the boards. So if they're able to win the glass by at least 5 or more, I think they're going to win in a really solid fashion.
Okay. All right. Misha, are you good with taking the Aces, or you want to stick with the Liberty as well?
I'll take the Aces. Aces. I think the Aces win if they can force. The Aces win if they have at least 5 less turnovers than the Liberty. If they can turn the Liberty over a little bit more, because I think something that's going to be extremely important in this series is possession, is having possession of the ball and having quality possession of the ball. You know, we've seen, and I think it was Drea Carter on one of the broadcasts talk about the way the Aces like to get out and run and turn, rebounds into fast breaks, essentially. And that's very important, but that's also a really risky way to play sometimes. And we've seen in stretches, even against the Wings in that series where, that came back to bite them in the butt. But if they can play the defense they need to play and take care of the ball, that'll make them at least 5 turnovers less than what the Liberty's got. I think that's a good win for the Aces.
I like it. I know I said we're going to do predictions on game one, but honestly, I keep thinking of the longevity potentially of the series. And I'm trying to decide who I think is the better road team. Why am I saying that? Well, one, the Aces have not lost. They have not lost a game at home, although when people use that stat, they are not counting the Commissioner's Cup championship game, which was indeed on the Aces home court, and they indeed did lose that game. I'm just
Set the
saying.
record straight. Set the record straight.
There was champagne involved. People don't acknowledge that.
Okay, so I'm trying to decide, and I'll have to look at the numbers, who I think eye test is the better road team. The Aces like playing at home, that's for sure. But again, the Liberty have beaten them on their home court. The Liberty are, I think, the more inconsistent team with protecting home court. So if they're going to take the series, they need to perform well on the road. And I'm just trying to decide if I think that they can do it. I do. And I think if the New York Liberty want to have any chance of winning out the series, they have to take game one. That's kind of my big prediction. I think they have to take game one. I don't like using must-win game because I think it's like, fam, the must-win game is literally when there are no more, like they lose and there are no more games. Like that's must-win. Like I don't like to be hyperbolic in that way, but critical game, critical for momentum, that's real. And I think from a momentum perspective, I think because then I go back and forth because the Liberty obviously lost a home game to Connecticut in the semifinals, and they lost game one in the, so I don't know. I go back and forth. I guess all of that to say, I think game one means more to the Liberty than the Aces. And I surprised myself a little. I was asked to do a prediction, I think, for CBS Sports, and I said Aces in 4. Or BBC. I said Aces in 4. That just was what came to my head. So I do think that it's the Aces to lose. That's my take. Agreed. First of all, I always respect the defending champion. Second of all, they are the top seed. And the consistency, although it has not been a quote unquote issue for me throughout the season, you have to honor and respect that things, when they're smooth for the Aces, they're smooth. That being said, again, see, I'm like talking myself out of my take because we saw the Aces kind of fall, the bottom fell out a little after All-Star. But I think I'm not ready to make a prediction yet, although I guess I did for BPC, but I think I'll say this. The auntie vibe is telling me game one means more for the New York Liberty, not just because they're the road team, but a game one win would do more for momentum for the New York Liberty than the Aces. That's my take. I think the Aces are a team that, regardless what happens game one, they'll be able to bounce back. I think the momentum and the confidence, especially for some players who've never been there before, that's huge. So yeah, those are my thoughts. But we'll see how it all plays out. I know Brian and I are trying to make our way to Vegas. So stay tuned on Black Rosie Media for ways that you can help support independent journalists make the trek out for the WNBA finals. But for Misha and Brian, I'm Erica. This is Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Black Rosie Media. Kathy Engelbert, if you're watching, all jokes, you know.
Kathy, it's all
I know you got your notebook of storylines somewhere, and you can check this one off because we got a New York Liberty, Las Vegas Aces final. You're about to announce expansion, and Tom Brady is a partial owner. Skadoosh. What more could Kathy want? I think we're good.
We need Taylor Swift, Kathy. Apparently, we need Taylor Swift, so work on it.
That's next. Is that in the notebook, Kathy? I'm gonna ask you on Sunday. Is that in the notebook?
Beyonce too, though.
I mean, I'm feeling Beyonce. Listen, Destiny's Child has already performed at a WNBA All-Star event, so I mean,
look, if y'all want to talk, Kathy, call us. If you want to talk, we got ideas. Okay, we got ideas.
Let's go. Thank you so much, Commissioner, and everyone else for tuning in to Gotta Get Up.
You can't be serious for nothing. Oh my God.
Peace out, everybody.
gosh.